Are you racing Ironman Wales this year? Well, if so, this is the video for you because in it you're going to hear from two experienced Ironman University qualified coaches and also a local coach from the Wales region has all the hints and tips you need to nail your race day. So let's get to it. As I said in this video, give you killer swim tips, talk about the bike course and tips, run course, what you need to know. And also we'll go through some sort of high level information in terms of nutrition, equipment, packing, etc. Essentially, all you need to know to get yourself set for an absolutely brilliant day in Tenby. But who are we? My name is Stephen Moody, or Coach Steve from Smart Endurance Solutions. I have been an IRONMAN U certified coach for the last 10 plus years. I've been coaching for 20 years and I've got a number of athletes to the start and finish line in Tenby. And I'm absolutely delighted to have Chris Wallace from Triathlon Coaching Company to help me run through this video. Chris, how are we?
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Chris Wallace. Yeah, I've been coaching for, God, it's probably close to 15 years now. I'm a new certified, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Been a coach educator for British Triathlon and Welsh Triathlon for nearly 12 years as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having a chat about probably one of my favorite Ironman courses. So yeah, it'd be good.
Well, it has to be your favorite, you've seen as you're a local.
Yeah, localish.
Cool. Excellent. Brilliant. So let's dive in then, Chris. Obviously, let's start off a little bit with where everyone's day will start. The Tenby swim course, two loops in the sea. What advice do you give your guys for setting themselves up for a Tenby swim?
I think probably one of the key ones is for me definitely is remembering to swim a lot in a wetsuit because the chances of it being a non-wetsuit swim are very, very low. Um, Also, probably one of the other key things around it is year on year, the conditions can be vastly different. Sometimes it can be absolutely pan flat, not a single ripple, and then other years it can be quite hilly within the swim. So yeah, I think probably the big thing for me is experience a number of different conditions, get in the open water as much as you can, and be ready for it to be choppy or flat, and just count yourself lucky if it is nice and flat.
Perfect. And in terms of wildlife, is there many jellyfish in the water normally, or is it too cold in Wales?
Um, uh, yeah, a number of years there's been quite a lot of jellyfish sightings. If you go onto any of the Facebook groups, you'll always see loads of people sending photos of jellyfishes within there. To be fair, with the amount of athletes that are churning through it, you probably won't see that many. I definitely didn't the two times that I've done it. It's very rare that I would see one, or if I did, it was miles away. And yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nothing too much to worry about, I think.
Okay. They tend to be a lot more scared than us than we are. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's an equal fear. But also for my guys, whenever like doing a Maryland or something like where there's Tenby, I always advise putting a little bit of Vaseline on the face and the hands because they're the one parts that would be exposed. And therefore, if
Yeah.
they do get touched, you're not really going to get much of a sting and all the rest. The it's two loops now. So is there an Australian exit here as well then?
Yes, there's an Australia exit, and actually the loops have been reversed now as well. So anyone that's done it really early on, it would loop the other way, so you go clockwise. I believe now it's going counterclockwise. Yeah, and that Australian exit there is really really good in a lot of respects because it gives you a chance to have a bit of a breather. I suppose the big thing around that is going from horizontal to vertical. Just remembering when people get out of water that there is going to be some dizziness going on probably, and take your time on that run. At the end of the day, it's a long day out. The last thing you want to do is trip over in front of a giant crowd, but also hurt yourself uh, coming out on that Australian exit.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, again, what I tell my guys, even for any sort of normal swim exit, and especially with an Aussie exit, and for people who aren't unfamiliar with that, that's we call an Australian exit, where you actually swimming two loops and you actually come on dry land before you start the second loop. I always get my guys to kick a little bit more aggressively
Yeah,
just when they're coming in because it helps. As you said, you're going from horizontal to vertical. It gets a bit more blood flow to the legs and helps with that dizziness. But and also no, but you're not getting anything from jumping up like a coil spring. gently ease yourself up, allow the blood flow to go down because you've got another whatever 1.9K to go. Um, in terms of water temperature, it's yeah, definitely going to be wetsuit legal. Anything else from your experience of the race itself, or that you'd give for tips for guys swimming it?
Uh, Definitely for those guys that have never swum a sea swim before, thinking about lubrication around the neck line and lubrication around the wrist, anywhere where you're going to have movement, you're probably going to end up with some chafing because once that salt water gets in underneath everything, you start getting that salt buildup, and it can be quite prone to chafing the ground around the back of the neck. I suppose probably one of the second sort of tips around that as well is that, again, if they've not swum in salt water before, the taste, the getting that water in your mouth, you're going to get salty taste. You're going to have those issues. So having a bottle of water in transition that's just there ready for you to get rid of that taste out of your mouth, or even in your bag coming up to the steps up,
Yeah.
then it's a useful thing to have if you can.
Yep, no, absolutely. And also with the neck rash as well, as I said, it's us being triathletes. If you get that neck rash, it takes forever to go because you're always in the pool the next couple of days. I recommend those neck guards, as I'm a big fan of them. I actually have the link to the video in below how it works and all the rest. Yes, absolutely. I always have a bottle of Coke or something to rinse my mouth out with as well, just to kind of you don't want that sort of salt and around your mouth all the time. It's also a rolling swim start in Tenby as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so the years I did it, it was my start. But yeah, they've obviously now into that rolling start side of things.
Okay, cool. So, and just in terms again, what a rolling start. Now, again, I also did a couple of mass starts in my day in Lanza and all the rest, and it's a different experience altogether. We all pile into the water like lemmings. But Ironman have recognized there's a lot of new people to the sport, and they want to kind of control the flow of athletes into the water. So what they do now is they have dedicated corrals, as in like you'll go and they see sub 1 hour, sub 70 minutes, sub 80 minutes, and what you're meant to do is put yourself in the corral which will give you to the approximate swim time. So if you've done a practice swim in the sea and you covered in around 90 minutes, 90 minutes is your corral. And how they allow you into the water is when you come to the gates, you'll typically see these four or so five metal gates, and that volunteers will be standing here. This is going to be like, say, for example, the under 60-minute corral, who people have gills and fins. They every 10 seconds the beep will go off, and these guys will lift up their arms and they'll allow five or so athletes into the water at a time. And then they put their arms down, another 10 seconds. So it's just a very gradual, controlled entry into the water. So, key here is really making sure you actually are honest with yourself and seed yourself accordingly. Because some people go, oh, I'm going to be close to cut off for the 2 hour, 20 minutes. And they go, maybe I'll go in the early one, I'll have more time. That's not the case because once you cross the swim mat here, that's when your timer starts. If you put yourself in a corral too high, you'll lose on 2 points. One, stronger swimmers will swim over you unapologetically. And two, you'll lose your ability to draft, as in to stay on the feet of or on the hip of someone who's roughly the similar swimming ability. And Chris, as you know yourself, saving energy is key in an Ironman race.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that 100% as well. It's like seeding yourself correctly, knowing your time, roughly, that you're going to be able to do, will save you a lot of issues during that race.
Cool. Alrighty. And in terms of swim cutoff, it's 2 hours 20 before you embark on one is now, and we'll know everyone who signed up for Wales will know that it's one of the tougher courses on the circuit, but they tend to throw everything at you. The transition to Tenby, which we're going to discuss here, as an after you've done your 2 laps and come out like a champ, and Tenby is something a little bit unusual to offer the new triathlete. Um, which is I don't know if you guys have a name for it. I just think like the steps of doom or the heartbreak steps or what do you guys call it?
Pretty much for the same thing for me. Yeah, it's an interesting quirk, should we say, of IRONMAN Wales is those steps, or that run up from there is yeah, it's interesting. especially when there's lots of athletes, all the bags are there, and so on and so forth.
But look at those crowds, mate. Again, and by the way, another thing of Tenby, as in the crowd do come out, and it's one of renown as being the most well supported races on the circuit. You mentioned the bags, isn't there's a pink bags at the bottom here for people if they want. Is it pink that they can put in runners or flip flops or Crocs or whatever? Because you do have to run all the way up the steps to here, and then another kilometer or so to transition, or how?
Yeah, I think it's probably somebody will correct me now, but it's around about a k and a bit. I think getting into town. Yeah, and the definite key bit of advice for that is make sure that you've got some runners that you can put on or something that you can wear because otherwise you're going to be running through town barefoot. And as good as they are at clearing the roads of any debris or anything like that, the last thing you want is a cut foot going into 112 mile on the bike and then into that run. So looking after yourself coming out of there is key. What I would also say as well is around with the wetsuit and removing the wetsuit. If you've got that run all the way into town and through to T1, you'll see a number of guys leave their wetsuit on until they get there into transition. By which point, all the water that was in the wetsuit that allows you to start taking that off, it has disappeared. It can be quite an interesting part of the race trying to get that wetsuit off. So I would probably say at the very, very least is get it down off the arms and around the waist as soon as practical, really, and make sure that you can run through town with that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys. Was it just strip down here and just
Yeah.
put it over the shoulder, which again for me would be makes more sense, as in because you're running in
Mm-hmm.
the wetsuit and it's going to be hot and heavy. It's additional
Mm-hmm.
weight. So for me, I'll be sitting my backside down. Now I race in a tri suit, so I'd be able to do that. But if you're only racing togs and having anything underneath, it might be a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would
Yeah.
agree with you to get the wetsuit down at least to the waist. It's a single transition, isn't it? Or a
Mm-hmm.
numbered transition? Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of so we're up the steps and then it's a K into town. And the transition, it's in a car park or was it on grass or?
Yeah, so I believe it's still on the main car park, but it's been on for a while now. So it's quite a big area on there. And like you said, there is numbered racking, and there are changing tents within that as well. Um, some of the big things about it is thinking about transition areas as usual, and thinking about your um, key points and your key landmarks for where your bike is, because obviously there's going to be lots of bikes in that area. So there's normally a good couple of fixed places around there that you can have a look at and go, right, I know my bike is in line with this building or it's in line with this section here. So it's quite, in that respect, it's really, really nice because there's a lot of potential landmarks around there for you to use that.
Yeah. You're obviously a better swimmer than I am. When I come, there tends not to be an awful lot of bikes that are hanging around, but I do have my landmarks walked out. And again, I do also get my guys to walk transition. And again, I would definitely get my guys the day before walk up and down here just to feel what it's like
Yeah.
on the legs and make that call. Is it worth jogging up it here? Are you a strong walk, etc.? And again, you mentioned the bags there. Ironman, again, for new to Ironman racing, and they don't. It's not like your local domestic triathlon where you have like you put everything beside your bike as in there's your runners, there's your helmet, etc. They use a bag system where they have a blue bag and a red bag, a pink bag as well, Wales for the runners at the bottom of the steps. The blue bag is what you will be transitioning from your swim to bike. So you're taking your wetsuit out and you're putting it in that blue bag. You're taking out your bike shoes, you're putting on your helmet, you're putting on your sunglasses or whatever you've got, or your visor, and then you go out. So a lot of people get panicked a bit about the bag. So I put together this handy little video, which you can see below in the comments, where we go through what we put in. In terms of aside from walking through the transition, landmarks, and also knowing where the mount line is. The mount line is where you have to clear that line before you can actually get on your bike. Any other tips for our potential dragon slayers for T1, Chris?
Yeah, I think for me, definitely take your time. It's not a sprint. It's a long day out there. I'm speaking from personal experience. Forgetting a pair of socks on the bike is can be yeah, it can put a real downer on the day for around that. So I think being prepared with everything, making sure you know where everything is, knowing exactly what you're going to take and what you're going to be racing with is key. But just again, I wouldn't rush it. Um, unless you're at the pointy end, then rushing it is going to cause you issues. And the last thing you want to do is forget stuff. Probably one of the other bits of advice I'd give around the transition side of things as well is there's going to be lots of bodies everywhere. There's going to be people all over the place. It is just a case of thinking, right, go through your plan, go through your race plan, go through the walk transition that you've done, and just make sure that you get to your bike, get yourself out there, and get onto the road safely and comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of communicating in terms of, I'm coming up with my bag as opposed to because people, yourself, we're all very intelligent individuals, and you throw us into a wetsuit or lycra, then we get race brain and we just do stupid things. You're wandering around in a little bit of a daze, and then you wander into someone and they bang your knee, and it's just going, look, I'm coming on your left, I'm coming on your left. I'm
Yeah,
gonna grab this seat. You cannot over communicate in an Ironman day, and this will come. We'll discuss this on the bike, especially because the more people are aware of you, the way more you can stay out of each other's way, and no one wants to get in each other's way when they're racing an Ironman. Okay, so we'll move on. That's our T1 single transition was a big ass run up. Make sure you have your shoes, and it's in a car park, and you will be using your transitioning from your with the blue bag from your swim to your bike all the what you need to put in the bag and how it works in that cool video. Okay, so let's move on to the bike course. Oh, no, sorry. Again, I probably should work through my slides. Just a quick one, guys. I hope you're enjoying the content. As you can see, Chris knows his stuff. I'm just looking pretty here in the background. But please do check out our socials. We're video on YouTube, so make sure you hit subscribe there. Check out Chris on Instagram. Subscribe, like our videos, and again, you'll get great content for this race and for future ones. So win-win. Okay, back to our bike course. Alrighty, Chris. Two loops of around some beautiful Welsh countryside. How do you guys find this course?
yeah, it's yeah. What can you say about it? It is it's an interesting course, especially when you look at that elevation side of things. I think for me is yeah, okay, it's hilly. There's a lot of lumps around that. There's a couple of significant climbs, really, but for me, there's nothing really that's there that's going to be impossible to get up. I think 16% is probably the highest grade for two of the climbs around that. Everything else is quite lumpy and rolly. So it's more around lots of shorter stuff rather than long drawn out climbs as you would sort of like Alp style climbs. Um, Road surfaces are varied from year to year. You do get some sections which are amazing and they feel fantastic, and you can really get the head down and go for it. But then there's other sections where there is a few potholes, shall we say. They are pretty good at maintaining the route because it's been there for quite some time. So you probably find going down there sort of over the next couple of weeks or months, there'll be resurfacing going on in some of the areas. I think last year there was some resurfacing being done, probably about 2 or 3 weeks before the race. But yeah, you'll see varied different points, especially sort of going out on that first loop, so on the western loop out towards Angle. Some of the road conditions out there are pretty good. In fact, a lot of the time those road conditions are good, but because you're so near the coast, it can be quite sandy. So it can be a bit. You do need to have a bit of an awareness sometimes coming around those bits.
Yeah. So actually, just on the course, and so we come out from the swim, and then we head up this way, and we're down here. So we just do this angle loop once, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and then we're on to the main kind of heart of it. And we do that twice.
yeah.
Okay,
That's correct.
fabulous. Okay, cool. Um, Yeah, and I can see here, like you said, that those do look punchy, but as you said, they're short and sharp. It's just more about gear management rather than actually was it killing yourself on it. TT or road
Yeah,
bike? What's the consensus with your guys?
the the evergreen question. Yeah, personally, I've done it on a road bike twice. I didn't see the need for a TT, but you will get people who are adamant that a TT is better. I suppose it all depends on how fast a biker you are, how fast you want to be going, how confident you are at controlling the bike. And I think also it depends what bikes you've got as well. You know, some people are just limited to that's the bike I've got and I'm going to race on that. The one thing I did do, definitely for me personally, I had clip-on bars on my road bike, kind of the best of both worlds in most situations. And for me, it wasn't so much around going faster. It was more around having options of position to be able to change that position up because obviously you're on the bike for quite a long time. Having the option to just drop into the onto the TT bar for a little bit, then once you've got to start getting a little bit
Yeah,
squirrely with
stretch out
that,
the back,
you
etc.
stretch out and move around. Yeah, so for me that was key.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, and I think also, regardless of which bike you're going to choose, as I said, I would be veering towards a road bike with clip-on bars. You got to practice on that beforehand and practice on something that is hilly. And when you're
yeah,
doing your final week's preparation, that's the elevation difference you're going to be facing, lads. So make sure that you're doing something similar to that in your long bikes, so you know what it's like when you're coming, like even when you're going to do your bricks for your training runs, that you sort of go, oh my God, my legs are fried. And go, well, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit more hill work, or maybe I do longer bricks, etc. Or and you figure out how to use your gears better on that sort of hilly course. Um, Anything else? The road surface mixed, as you said. Aid stations. We got what have we got? We have got one at Angle. We have Lampy with oh God, I'm probably butchering some Welsh pronunciations here. Um, Narberth, and then Twycross roundabout, and you pass these guys twice, obviously. Um,
yeah.
what do you say? What advice do you give to your guys nutrition wise, Chris?
Um, for me, definitely, it's that whole thing of this is where you're going to get the mass cyclists. This is where your road awareness needs to be full on. You need to be switched on because people will be stopping in front of you. You know, there'll be potentially rubbish around on the floor, which probably shouldn't be, but there's potentially going to be stuff around there. And the guys that are handing out the bottles or handing out your nutrition and so on and so forth, um, they're going to be there for a long day. They're going to be there for quite some time. So, they may get it wrong sometimes. And it's just, for me, talking to a lot of athletes that I talk to, it's, you know, be polite, be friendly. The more friendly and polite you are to everyone around you, the better day everyone's going to have. But my key bit of advice is if you think you can roll through and collect nutrition as you're rolling through and you're happy and you've practiced that and you're comfortable doing that, then by all means do that. But equally, there is nothing wrong with actually saying, you know what, actually, I'm going to stop. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to stop and I'm going to take that nutrition on and take my time. You don't want to miss out on that chance to refuel and refresh. Um, Equally, if you are going to stop, then just remember we're at UK. So looking over, most people will look over their right shoulder to make sure there's nobody behind you. But equally, you can have athletes from different nationalities who may well be on the other side. So I always say to our guys is just make sure you're double checking both sides before you apply the anchors
Yeah,
and have
and
someone fly into the back of you.
it's back to that point again previously. It's all about communication. I'm
Yeah,
aid station, and again, like for me, I'm sort of guys right. Shout it out as in to the guys in front, to the guys in back, because they might be slowing down. I'm coming into this aid station. When you see a volunteer, I make eye contact. I'm pointing you. Was it a bottle of Coke? Sorry, a bottle of precision hydration. Lovely. And again, thank them, etc. And then I'm coming out. I'm coming out, and it's all about that communication. And also, again, you're 100% right. As in, if you need to stay on top of your hydration and your nutrition for this, especially in the last loop of this race, you sort of start going, wow, I've got through it. I've survived the two-thirds of the dragon. But remember, in the last kind of loop here, you are actually fueling for the marathon rather than anything else. So it's a key, and it's having your Garmin alert set up in your on your watch, as in like eat every 15 minutes, eat a drink every 30 minutes, whatever you've practiced in your for your nutrition strategy. And we talk a little bit that in the slides in the next one, at the end. But yeah, keeping on top of it, and you're 100% right. As in, athletes when you're passing actually in Wales, so I know I'm European at this stage, but it's now I've got in my head. You overtake on the right.
Yeah, so we'd become pull out to the right and go over because obviously we're on the left hand side of the road, so most people would take on the right hand side. Yeah,
Yeah, because as I say, when we go to Barcelona, it's verse, and you're just like, okay, right. So and again, it's even if you kind of get confused on it a little bit, if you're communicating, as in that will alleviate that risk. So it's all about look, communicating to your other athletes and your to guys in front, behind, etc., and also staying out of the draft zone. Although I can't imagine doing an awful lot of drafting on this sort of course with the hills and the loop session on it. Okay. Any
yeah.
other tips on the bike course, mate?
Um, yeah, I suppose there's quite a few that you can go into quite a bit of detail. Obviously, you've got two of the sort of iconic climbs, as it were. They're on the Northern Loop, so fortunately or unfortunately, depends which way you look at it. You're going to be hitting those twice. So yeah, that could be fun. Um, for those two climbs, so you've got Wiseman's and Heartbreak Hill over in Saundersfoot. Hits about 16%, I think, roughly. But the key thing with those is that's where most of the crowds are, and
Brilliant.
it's amazing the feel that you get there, the disco atmosphere, but equally it's really 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 easy to overgun it, because there's lots of people there. You get the adrenaline kicking in. It sounds like I might be talking from experience here, but
I could do this all day. Oh God, I
yeah, but
can't.
you will pay for that later on. So just have in the back of your mind that plan, stick to that plan. And I think for me, for both of those climbs, really, it's about thinking about, hey, staying as calm as you possibly can. Obviously, engage with the crowd because they love it. But try and manage your effort going through all of those as well. And again, I don't know whether you're the same as me, Steve, but I always look at it as if we're looking at 112 miles on the bike, I want that to be as steady as possible. As in, I don't want to be any peaks and troughs within it. The straighter or the flatter that line of power or that flatter that line of heart rate or whatever you're using, the better, because you're able to control that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've heard great things about the crowd. I think
Oh,
all dressed
phenomenal.
up. They get dressed up and stuff like as hot dogs and wrestling heroes, etc. I know.
Yeah,
Again,
I've got a key story about that for my very first race if we've got time with it. So coming up one of the climbs, and it's a distant memory at the moment, so I can't remember exactly which climb it was. I was in a little bit of a low mood at some
a
point.
dark place.
Started to get, yeah, a bit of a dark place climbing, and I was just thinking this climb's not going to end. And I looked up, and there was a guy dressed as 1960s Batman, with a guy dressed as Captain America stood next to him, shouting at me in the a thick Brummie accent. Come on, mate, you can do this. And it was just that moment of like, you know what, this is great. I'm going to carry on with this. And it was those little things like that. I think for me, definitely, and for a lot of athletes I work with, they're the bits you remember. They're the bits
Yeah.
that you can sort of tap into later on in the race, going, that was amazing, so on and so forth. And yeah, I think for me, it's just like you were saying, is enjoying the time that you're out there on it, but remembering that you just got to keep moving forward, really.
Now, other people saw that Batman too, and you weren't hallucinating,
Yeah,
as
it
you
wasn't a
say.
hallucination. Yeah,
But that's it. I think as I tell my athletes, like the racing is your reward for all the hard training, and like because they will have days in their training sessions where they're doing long bikes like this and a long brick and all the rest, and go look. Since when in those long bikes and those bricks did you have people out there cheering and roaring you on? As in, like, this is one of your easier days, if you control it and pace it. But no, I'm seeing this course. I'm thinking it looks very tough, but I'm also hearing a lot of good things about it. I might have to come over and visit you in Wales and stay away
hundred
from all these
percent, man.
flat courses that I always do.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
it's glorious.
a little bit on, and again, we touched on it there with Chris about Ironman aid stations are an art in themselves, and as Chris correctly alluded to, as in like some people want to stop at them, some people was it they fly through. There are different ways and means of doing it. I have a video in the comments below that will show you how to do it. I've got demos from pros, etc., and all the rest. It will teach you about how it flows and making sure you make eye contact with the volunteer, etc., and slow down to grab the bottle if you're going to go through, etc. So make sure you watch that video if you want more detail in terms of what will happen in an aid station, just at a high level. You've got an area to drop litter at the start of it and at the end of it. If you caught dropping litter anywhere else, you will rightly get disqualified because we are visitors in a beautiful town of Tenby. As in, we hold on to our wrappers, we hold on to our empty bottles till these points where it's easy for our men to collate them. They typically will have water. They will have precision hydration as the isotonic drink of choice. Morton gels are still there, rocking it, and there's fruits. And again, there'll be other unusual sort of elements there as well. But then again, you have a chat. So don't worry if you've missed your precision hydration, the isotonic drink the first time. They kind of mirror it, and then you can get water again. Anything else on the aid stations there, Chris, that you'd like to add, or anything specific? Do they hand out any Welsh delicacies?
Yeah, on a number of years that I've been there, there's been added extras. But in the main, it's exactly as you said there. I think you'll also get, especially on this course, there's not many toilet stop opportunities. So I think out in Angle, so on that first loop, there is a if I remember right, there's a little town hall there normally did allow people to use that toilet. Bear
Okay.
in mind that the last time I did that one specifically was 2013, so things could have changed on that one. But from athletes I've spoken to before, is the stops for stuff like that. There will be areas for you to stop.
Yeah, and there
Um,
tends to be
and
portaloos at these aid stations as well.
yeah, I was going to say yeah, and mainly Portaloos as well. And then finally with that one is, like you said, is don't panic if you miss the first opportunity on the way in. You'll have another opportunity on the way out to pick stuff up. And I've just got to echo the drop in rubbish and drop in litter. Yeah, rightly so. You will get penalised massively for it if you do it. Just use the zones.
And it's also just dangerous for your fellow athletes. So let alone the kind of the it's just rude to litter another person's country. If you're dropping a bottle and you throw it into a hedge and it bounces back out, that wheels in front of one of your fellow kind of sportsmen and sort of that could cause a serious crash. I think the phrase here, don't be a dick. I'm pretty sure YouTube will allow
Yes,
me to put that
yeah,
up. Alrighty.
find out.
Okay. So now we're back into the same T2. Sorry, it's a single transition as well. Now we will be going for our red bag, which is when we go from our bike to our run. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail here because we have that in the video, what you need to pack in there. But essentially, your runners, and you throw in your bike, you replace with your helmet, your bike shoes, and you switch onto your runners. Um, from the I also get my guys making sure when they're doing the pre-course familiarization that they walk from the bike in and the dismount line to make sure they
Yeah,
know what they're saying. Because as you were saying, Chris, earlier, that's my building. But if you're coming from a different angle, it's all a bit disorientated and everyone's a little bit of a pre-race flap. Any other T2 top T2 tips you give your guys?
yeah, 100%. At Tenby, or for most Iron distance events, is a new pair of socks. I cannot overemphasize the feeling of putting a new pair of socks on for when you're going out on the run, especially depending on Tenby's weather as well. You could be treated to glorious sunshine at that far end and rain everywhere else, and then it could be the other way around. So having that opportunity for fresh, dry socks cannot be underestimated.
I thought that was a middle-aged thing with me. I get very excited about socks these days, as an rest, but I 100% agree with you. As in, like you gotta have dry socks in T1, socks in T2, because otherwise, like again, people go, "But socks that big a deal?" They are when you get a blister after 15K on your run and you've another 27 to go. So take your time, dry foot, and back to your other point about transition one. As in, do not rush a transition in an Ironman. You save 2, 3 minutes, but you drop nutrition, or you're going out and you've got a blister within 10K. Disaster. Take your time. You've got it. But I also say to my guys, nothing good happens on transition two. You sit down too long, you sort of go into
Yeah,
like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you start questioning your life choice, and then the marathon becomes a little bit more daunting. You go like, oh, things are cramping up. So
yeah,
yes, get the socks on, but get in, get out.
yeah. I
Anything
think
else
you're
you'd
right. I think
offer?
no, I'd echo that one of yeah, take your time, but don't take too much time. Make sure that you're in and out smoothly, in and out with all the kit that you need, and you should know by that point. You should know exactly what you're doing, kit wise. I would probably say as well is even if it's overcast or anything like that, a hat and sunglasses, no matter what, is always quite useful because it can change throughout the time depending on what time you're getting in there as well. Because
Yeah,
it could be a long afternoon.
that's another good point as well. And I tell my guys as well, as in remember, you don't have to use everything that's in your blue and your red bags. And from the sounds of it, weather can be quite changeable in Tenby. So I tell my guys better to be looking at it than looking for it. So even if was it the sun is splitting the stones on the morning, have a rain jacket in your blue bag because if you come up and it goes, actually that looks like it's going to rain, and then at least you have it. But if you don't use it, just it's there. So don't need to bother with. Likewise with, as you said, having possibly a slightly longer running sleeve top if it looks like it's going to get real cold. No, good tips, mate. Like it. Okay, we will move on to that beautiful run course, which here we are. Um, and again, it being Tenby, it's not an easy run. And you want to talk us through a little bit on this, mate?
Yeah, sure. So I always look at this at sort of 4 laps of 5K uphill, 5K downhill, really. Um, so you'll also, whether you like it or not, the the big hill that you'll see on there is one that you come down on the bike towards the end of the bike, so you'll know what that hill is, and it is a long sort of schlep up and out. Um, there's a lot of twists and turns when you come back into town as well, so there is a lot of turning around, coming back, which if you're a person that loves laps, it's brilliant. If you're a person that doesn't love laps, then um, yeah, you're probably not going to enjoy it that much because it is just quite a lot of coming back on yourself to go around. Um, Having said that, the lower part of the run, as in Tenby itself, is probably the biggest party atmosphere I've ever experienced in a race. It is just crazy. It's absolutely fantastic. The amount of support out and about around there is just phenomenal. And I think especially once you're on the run, having that support there just really rallies you to go, actually, I'm going past this again. And you can play that game, the guys that are in the pub, you can see how drunk they get as you go over lap by lap by lap by lap. So that's always a good game to play. But yeah, I think for the run is do not underestimate it. Everyone talks about Tenby's bike course. Everyone's always about, the bike course is hilly, the bike course is hilly. Yes, it is. But the run is also, it's got a sting in the tail. And it is quite fruity and lumpy, should we say.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be having a lot of gradient in your long runs and your bricks off your bike, and also doing hill repeats and stuff like that to get those running muscles up. And also the skill of actually learning how to run downhill. A lot of
Yeah,
people sort of make the mistake of leaning back and engage their quads and their glutes and burns them out. It's almost, I tell my guys, like run like Phoebe on the way down. Let your body, take gravity is taking it out of you, take something on the way back down. No, absolutely. It looks like as I said, this is just, look, when you get your Ironman Wales medal, you very much earn it. There's nothing easy about this course. What I would also advise as well, in terms of, yes, the bike is hilly in Tenby, like there's no denying that. So what you really need to do is also just pace this very well. And there's
mm,
no point in coming out going, yes, I've done the bike course, and then try to PB the first 5K of the run, and then actually end up was it blowing up here for the rest of the day? For me, I tell
Yeah.
my guys to break the run into like it, and again to even get over the psychological, my God, it's a marathon. I've just done one of the hardest cycles I've ever done. Break it into 10K or even as you said, like the 5K loops, as in so 5K up. Okay, that's that knocked off, 5K down, that's my return, etc. And just build it up like that. So pace yourself really easy for the first 10K out,
Mm.
kind of take it, try to get into that nice sort of sweet spot, long run rhythm, which you will have built up doing your long runs over hills. Now that you've listened to myself and Chris, and then the last 10K, Chris, I don't know about you, but it just always sucks. There's
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
there's no,
There's no getting around it, is there? Yeah. Was it 20 miles of hope, 6 miles of reality? Yeah.
I like that. And then, as I say to my guys, that's where it really becomes more of a mental battle, as in like your legs will still move, but you're sort of going, right, okay, why am I doing this? What am I trying to visualize? The finish line. You're pulling out mantras. You're kind of going, okay, I'm dedicating the next 2 kilometers to my mom who I lost last year, or I'm doing this next 2 kilometers to my niece, or I'm trying to inspire, and you just have to play tricks with your mind
Yeah,
just to keep
100%.
moving forward.
Doing runner's maths, you're sitting there going, right, it's 5K, so actually that's five 1K blocks, or that's 10 500-meter blocks, and you just keep playing that and ticking each one off on the way through.
I was
Um,
never good at fractions or decimals until I started running marathons, and then it's going, okay, right, that's 77%. I really
yeah.
got this.
Oh yeah, it's not just me
But if
then.
it's anything that just distracts you, or even okay, right, just keep running to that next aid station, and then we'll do a little bit of walk there, and we'll run to the next aid station. Like anything you can to break it up. And again, mantras are great, like short, powerful statements to go, right, was it catch easy, next guy, or was it soft landing, hard push, la la la. Um, on the aid stations, by the way, this is typically the flow of a European aid station. You'll have
Yeah,
your water, isotonic cola, gels, bars. You'll have your own again Welsh little unusuality here. Was I'm sure it's leek or something that you guys hand out, and then isotonic drink. There's the trash,
half leaks it.
yeah, leek soup. And again, the same applies in terms of littering. Just because you're in a town does not mean, unless it's in a bin, you put it in a trash zone. Use the portaloos. Don't go peeing in someone's garden. The people of
Mm,
Tenby are incredibly welcoming. Do not piss on that, for want of a better phrase. Um, and aid stations, we got there's one every kind of 2.5 kilometers around.
yeah,
Anything on the aid
pretty
station,
much.
mate?
Um, yeah, there's portaloos normally along that as well. Um, I think for me, for the aid station, I think you nailed it before when you said like I always advise our guys if you're going to walk, you may as well walk the aid stations, and it's always a nice sort of break. So yeah, I'm going to get to the next aid station. I think that's the way I normally break it down in my head. I'm going to run to the next aid station, or stagger, whichever you're at that point. Get to that aid station, then take that walk break, and it's like a little mini reward
Yes.
that you get to walk that little bit. I think especially with Tenby, when you come out on the run, I think it's around about 2 miles of uphill, but it's quite a gradual climb. Getting into that rhythm early with that is really, really key. But the other issue with that is you get into that rhythm, you've almost got set into that rhythm, and then it changes, and then you're coming back down, and you're having to change around. But you've always got those aid stations to sort of use as your key landmarks to go, right, I'm going to get to this next one.
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
absolutely.
if you're on the run, you're going to finish. Um, I think most people sort of aim as that. If I can get on the run, I know I'm going to get across that finish line,
That's it.
and you do get to see that finish line a couple of times as you go past as well. So that's always
And you'll
nice.
feel that energy. As I said, the Tenby
Yeah,
crowd are awesome. I
oh,
also, again,
phenomenal.
one of my key pieces of advice is you never miss an aid station. One, because you keep needing fuel in your body, you're completely depleting your glycogen reserves all day long. But my other take is I pay Ironman enough money. And again, it's my life goal to eat my entry fee worth of Morton gels on an Ironman course. Mathematically, that might not actually be physically possible, but maybe I'll bring a backpack and I'll bring home around 200 Morton shells on the last lap.
I'm
Um,
sure that's a YouTube video in itself. But see how many you can take
there-
over before.
there's
Yeah,
some content.
yeah.
What happened after Stephen and his 100 Morton gel consumption? Okay. We in terms of getting it done, it's 17 hours, a little bit longer than a lot of the European races like the Barca's and the Frankfurts and Hamburg. But this reflects the difficulty of Tenby and the absolute massive achievement of conquering, slaying the dragon. Um, so any final tips on the run course, mate?
Um, yeah, I think we've covered most of the things. Again, I think just embrace the challenge. It is challenging. It is tough. The whole course is tough, but the reward at the end of that is phenomenal. I think for a lot of people, you know, enjoy that last little bit coming in to the finish line and really soak it in
Yeah.
and just take it on board, especially if it's your first. Um, and equally, if it is your very first iron distance event as well, I struggle to think of anything that will top it. Personally, it's just a phenomenal event.
Yeah. Like look at that court, look at that finish line. That's you can tell that's wet. People are out and they're in their was it they're out. It's dark, it's wet, it's cold, and the crowds are still out in their hundreds cheering people in. And look at that finish line. I love that. That's what you need to
It's
visualize.
amazing.
That's your reward. That's what you've been working towards. And you, as Chris says, it's the sense of accomplishment of knocking off the dragon is going to be absolutely huge. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to just cover a couple of other minor things before myself and Chris say goodbye to you. But I hope we found that video useful. We've gone through some. Chris has given some brilliant insight from his own racing experience, from his own athlete's experience, and so this has been absolutely awesome. The other things we'd like to just remind you of, we've talked a little bit about race nutrition, whole topic in itself. Myself and Chris could be here for hours on it having the crack, but we've there's a video in the comments below that will give you sort of key things you need to work out working out your lifestyle strategy in your build, etc. What you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, how you're going to eat. Well, it just sounds a bit odd, but like where you're going to transport it, etc. Um, Packing, especially if you're coming from abroad, as in like what to make sure. If I see in another Facebook forum, has anyone got a Di2 charger? As in who's got a Garmin charger? You need a packing checklist, and there's one that downloadable in the video below. Tapering, you're trained for this for 6+ months, and then next there'll be 2 weeks of your life which you are convinced that you are becoming the most unfit man on the planet when you are literally probably a unfit person, sorry, on the planet. When you're not, or you're catching flus, etc., you're not taper madness. We talk about how to deal with that. And again, some last minute tips in terms of working out your logistics, as I said, reading the race brief, etc. Like these are key things that you just do, which is brilliantly coincides with taper and you've actually got hot time in your hands on a Sunday and a Saturday where you can actually read these things, watch other YouTube videos, these great ones here. And again, just the race day venue itself. This is for 2024. You can register from Friday onwards from 8 in the morning till 7 p.m. Saturday is only available to 1 p.m. The bike check-in is and your bag check-in is from 8:30 till 3 p.m. You will have access to your bag and your bike on the race day morning. Is that correct there, Chris?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Cool. So we recommend that you do not leave your food or your bike computers on it overnight, as in it if you leave food there, insects will eat it. If you leave your bike there, your bike computer, it could get knocked off and it's too valuable piece of equipment that it might get wet overnight, etc. Just bring it home, charge it, and stick it on in the morning. And don't panic if you when you get your cool IRONMAN Wales backpack and your blue and red bags, but there's no time chip. You pick that up when you check in your bike. And then when you go to check in your bike, make sure you have your helmet to show them, etc., and all the rest. Race day morning starts at 5:30. You are going to have the time of your life from 7 a.m. when that starts and you hit that Tenby Ocean, and it's going to be awesome. So Chris, thank you ever so much for taking the time. It's been brilliant talking to you, and you've almost tempted me to sign in up for Tenby next year.
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
on
have a look at
commission, but
the calendar, but you've made it sound good.
get it done.
A very honest course,
Yeah,
and I really appreciate it. And I just sort of to allow other people, myself and Chris, are as you can see, are a bit of triathlon nuts and nerds about this. We really want to get more people into our community. We want to help them have their good, cool race day experience. So we're more than happy to take any questions if you have them. There's my email address. There's Chris's info address. There's our website. Do check it out. Check us out on socials. Let us know how you got on, and hit us up if you want to have a chat on anything triathlon. Okay. Anything else, Chris? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the things, but just echo what you said again. Yeah, anyone free to get in touch. I'm always happy to chat anything triathlon related. It's feel a bit sad sometimes, don't we? But absolutely love it. So yeah, plenty of
Well,
time to
absolutely.
spend.
And as my missus says, when we go into a different world and we start meeting other triathletes, we start chatting on it, we talk different language and we completely zone out. Non-triathletes are just like in the background noise. But
Yeah,
Chris, speaking from one triathlete to another, it's been absolutely fabulous to have you on board. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. I hope a load of people. Will you actually be in Tenby this year on the course or?
it's a bit later this year. I'm planning on it, yeah, because we've got a couple of athletes racing there this year. So yeah, I'm probably going to try and get down there in the day. It's probably around, I think it's about 4 hour drive for us from here. But yeah, we're going to try and get down there. But yeah, it's just a party atmosphere. It always is. It's phenomenal, even from a spectator's point of view. And I think that's probably the one last thing I will say is if you go in and you've got family coming with you or you've got spectators coming with, they are going to have a brilliant day as well. There is just so much to do and so many things going on throughout the day that they'll have fun as well. And I thoroughly recommend them getting out there and having a look at all the different vantage points across the whole course.
Cool. So keep an eye out for, was it the cool triathlon coaching company logo and all that? If you say Chris, go up, say hello, say you watch the video, ask him, he'll have any more. He'll be happy to help. He'll bring you home, have a cup of tea. He's a lovely fella. Listen, Chris, it's been great. Thank you very, very much. And we'll
No
stop
worries.
it there.